All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. All right, the mics are working. It's going to be a great program. So my name is Alfonso Smith. We're going to go ahead and get started. I first just want to ask everyone to stand for the presentation of colors and the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
That was one of our very own students, Nazmi, with the national anthem. Great job with the national anthem there, Nazmi. Thank you so much for sharing your exceptional vocal talents with us this evening. Before I extend my official welcome to all of you, we do have a very special musical selection to share with you. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our very own Fine and Performing Arts Department, our staff from our department, Ms. Alta Cruz, Mr. Hartzell, Ms. Lynch, and Ms. May.
Our Performing Arts Department has always sought to lift every student's voice, regardless of their race or national origin. We recognize that, like our students, we too are on a continual journey of understanding equity, diversity, and inclusion.
From the music that is performed to the plays and scenes that are dramatized, we work with the students to break down the barriers that divide us by understanding the historic and cultural context for each piece of art that they perform. We are committed to using every opportunity to create a safe and welcoming space where all of our students feel loved and cared for and celebrated for being their exceptional selves.
Our school's diversity is its strength, and we're so proud to be moving forward under the new name honoring the late John R. Lewis. We selected this song because of its importance in the civil rights movement, of which John Lewis was a leader. The words in these verses still hold so much power today, and we stand in solidarity as we sing. high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won.
Our very own Fine and Performing Arts Department. We thank you for that. Let's give them another hand. Ladies and gentlemen, stage guests, auditorium guests, those of you watching it in the overflow location, as well as each and every one of you who are live streaming our event today. My name is Alfonso Gerard Smith, and I am the proud principal of John R. Lewis High School. So I'd like to take just a few minutes to welcome you to our rededication ceremony. First of all, what a week this has been. On Monday, we started with our eyes on Minnesota. As we went towards the middle of the week, on Wednesday, our eyes shifted towards Jeopardy. Did anybody see that? John Lewis High School, Jeopardy question. And people were asking earlier, how did that happen? Who made it happen? We don't know, but we'll take it. We'll take it. As we get to the end of our week here, we get to have this grand celebration, our rededication ceremony. So today we celebrate our name change, which took place in the summer of 2020, in the midst of an unprecedented pandemic, on the heels of heightened awareness about continued social injustices. There is great power in a name. I've known that for a long time, for as a Smith, if you know my family, we're taught that name is a badge of honor and you wear it proudly. So I've known that for almost 50 years now. Speaking of family, I've also had the privilege of being in contact with a very special family, a little further down south, Troy, Alabama, the Lewis family. We've been in contact with them recently, and I'd just like to pause for a second and hear from the brother of Congressman Lewis, Mr. Henry Lewis. Can we play at this time? Mr. Henry Lewis.
Hello, I am Henry Grant Lewis, the youngest brother of the late Congressman John Lewis. And thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of the ceremony. To the principal, Mr. Smith, the board members, faculty, students, and to everyone who played a part in the name change from Robert E. Lee High School to the John R. Lewis High School. Now I would like to tell you a little bit about the Congressman's long journey. When the Congressman was young and he would see something he didn't like, he felt he had a moral obligation to say something, to do something. In 1965, when they crossed the bridge well known as Bloody Sunday, was one of the things he saw he had to do. In 1963, on the March on Washington, that was another thing he felt like they had to do. And when he was in college in Nashville, Tennessee in 1960, they formed the Lunch County Sit-ins. That was another thing they felt like they had to do. They were getting in trouble. But as we well know now, it was all about good trouble. And during the Congressman's long journey, he got in a lot of good trouble. He got in the way. When he saw something that wasn't right, he felt he had a moral obligation to say something, to get in the way, put his body in the way if necessary, put his life on the line if necessary. And he did that from late teens to the day he passed away. He spent his entire life trying to make a difference, getting in good trouble, leaving an op-ed telling the marchers which way to march, which way to go. He had a vision, and he lived that vision out. Thank you so much for having us on. And as the entire Lewis family cherish his memories, we just thank y'all so much for adding his name to the school, naming the school after him, and keep his legacy alive. Thank you, and God bless you.
And we do thank you, Mr. Lewis, as well as the entire Lewis family. I know I was in contact with his son, Jarek, this morning, and I know we've been sharing just some of the different things that have been shown in the media locally regarding the name change. And the family is very thankful. We're thankful for them, had been able to have a few conversations with them. So we look forward to the day where we're able to host them here in person, here in Springfield, Virginia, at John R. Lewis High School. I'm also looking forward to my field trip to Troy, Alabama. We've had some conversations about that as well. All right, so as I believe we'd all agree, the year 2020 was a year unlike any other. We were all faced with new collective and individual challenges. I'm now going to pass the mic to just a few of the individuals who led Fairfax County Public Schools through many of our transitions in 2020, and one of those transitions, of course, was our school name change. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our superintendent, Dr. Scott Brabrand.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for that super kind introduction. It really is a great day to be alive in Fairfax County Public Schools today to honor and dedicate John R. Lewis High School. And we're so grateful, Mr. Smith, for your leadership in leading this wonderful school. Your staff and students have done truly amazing work to celebrate this memorable day here in our community, and I want to thank you very much. And I also want to thank distinguished guests that we have join today. All of you are distinguished guests, but I do have a few that I want to ask to stand and be recognized. If we can put the lights up here in the stage, and I would ask everybody in the audience to hold your applause until I've called all the names. It's quite a list, but it really speaks to the sacred work that we are doing today in this rededication. First of all, United States Senator Tim Kaine, Congressman Don Beyer, Congressman Jerry Conley. We also have, and I don't know if they've been able to arrive in the audience, so we'll have to see, but I have these as names, so hopefully they're here. If we can even do lights up in the seating, we'll see. Virginia State Senator George Barker, Virginia State Senator Adam Eben, Virginia State Senator David Marsden, Virginia Delegate Dan Helmer, Delegate Mark Keene, Delegate Kay Corey, Delegate Paul Kryzik, Delegate Alfonso Lopez, Delegate Ibrahim Samira, Delegate Kathy Tran, Delegate Vivian Watts. I want to also welcome, I don't know if he's been able to arrive yet, our Fairfax County Board of Supervisors Chairman Jeff McKay, and Supervisor Rodney Lusk, who I know is with us here on the stage today. I also want to thank our Fairfax School Board members who are here today. School Board Chair and Mason District Member, Dr. Ricardi Anderson. School Board Member from the Lee District, Ms. Tammy Daranack Koufax. School Board Member at Large, Karen Keys Gamara. Rachna Sizemore Heiser, School Board Member at Large. Abrar Omesh, School Board Member at Large. School Board Member from the Braddock District, Megan McLaughlin. From the Drainsville District, School Board Member Elaine Tolan. From the Hunter Mill District, School Board Member Melanie Marin. From the Mount Vernon District, School Board Member Karen Corbett Sanders. From the Providence District, School Board Member Carl Frisch. Laura Jane Cohen, School Board Member from the Springfield District. Stella Pekarski, our Vice Chair of the School Board and member from the Sully District. And School Board Student Representative Nathan Anabudo. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize a few members of the leadership team in Fairfax County Public Schools with us and ask them to stand as well and join this distinguished group of guests standing. Our Deputy Superintendent here in the front row, Dr. Francis Ivey. our Assistant Superintendent in Region 3, Dr. Nardis King, and our Chief Equity Officer, Dr. Lisa Williams. I want to thank them, and I also want to thank, while we're here at the Lewis High School, it's part of a pyramid of schools, and I want to recognize the leadership in those schools that feed into what is now John Lewis High School. From Crestwood Elementary, the principal there, Marguerite Seta. From Forestdale Elementary School, Jennifer Kooning. From Garfield, April Cage. At Key Middle School, Amy Hollop. Key Center, Ann Smith. Lynbrook Elementary, Kathleen Sane. Saratoga Elementary, Erica Loesch. And Springfield Estates, Eleanor Contreras. We also have several members for Congressman Lewis's fraternity, Pi Beta Sigma. Please stand if you are a part of that distinguished fraternity. Thank you for joining us today. Thank everyone for joining us, students, parents, staff, and community members. Thank you for your support. Let's give those distinguished guests a big round of applause. In some ways, it's exciting. It's almost like the whole country is here today in Fairfax County, watching and seeing, after what Principal Smith said has been a very, very big week in our country, and seeing the redemption that we are doing today in the rededication of Lewis High School. I know today is a special day, and it begins a new chapter here at Lewis High School for the school, the staff, the students, and the community. And it is fitting that we have named this school after a man who has spent his lifetime standing up for what is right, dedicated to the pursuit of equality and justice for all. John Lewis, as we all know, was a man who led by example. Through his nonviolent protests, he demonstrated that actions often speak louder than words, and he never gave up drawing attention to injustice. He was described as someone with a calm demeanor, but also a man who moved crowds with his heartfelt speeches, including that march on Washington that his brother talked about. He was truly a man of honor, and I am so excited as superintendent that our students will attend a school named for someone who was such a powerful and true example of leadership. I am proud of this school and its students. I noticed, Mr. Smith, you updated the school vision, and what an appropriate thing to do, and I want to share it with all of you this afternoon. At John Lewis High School, we build bridges to connect Lancers to their full potential. We honor all, we educate all, and we empower all. At John Lewis High School, all means all. And I believe Congressman Lewis would be very proud of that too. One of the stories he recounted later in his life about Dr. Martin Luther King, listening to Dr. King on the radio when he was growing up, he felt Dr. King was speaking directly to him, telling him to get involved and standing up for what is right. And the young John Lewis shared that he felt that Dr. Lewis was telling him the spirit of history was moving through him, and that it was his moment to truly stand up to what was coming, the civil rights movement that was coming. I believe the spirit was right. And I believe in this moment for Lewis High School students, now it is your moment and your movement. Lewis Lancers, you have a lot to be proud of today. Your spirit, your fortitude, and dedication to this school and classmates is aspiring to see. And I'm hearing now wonderful activities and accomplishments that are already taking place here at Lewis. So impressed by what I've seen and heard today. We had beautiful music from the students, the JROTC students proudly presenting the colors, and I know more students you'll be hearing from in this program in just a moment. It's this sense of pride and commitment that makes Lewis High School a special place, and I know Principal Smith, under your leadership, working with faculty and students, you all will continue the journey of becoming John R. Lewis High School. I leave you with the following inspiring words from Congressman Lewis. You are a light. You are the light. Never let anyone, any person or force dampen, dim, or diminish your light. Study the path of others to make your way easier, and the way of others more easier and more abundant. Thank you all for coming today, for celebrating today, and welcome to John R. Lewis High School. I can't tell with the lights down whether Chairman McKay has been able to make it from the Board of Supervisors. And there he is. He's right behind me. So it's my honor to be able to introduce our next speaker, Fairfax County Board of Supervisors Chairman Jeff McKay. Jeff served as the former supervisor of Dana Kaufman's Chief of Staff, for more than a decade, before running and winning the election as lead district supervisor in November 2007. And Jeff has been a champion for equity, education, affordable housing, transportation, revitalization, and the environment in Fairfax County. He's chaired the board's transportation, revitalization, budget, and legislative committees. As budget and legislative chairman, he's fostered collaborative relationships with our federal and state elected officials as well as our school board. I really appreciate all that Jeff has done to support Fairfax County Public Schools in this moment and in all of the moments here at Fairfax. So please join me, everybody, in welcoming Board of Supervisors Chairman, the Honorable Jeff McKay.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Superintendent, for that kind introduction. For me, this is a bit of a homecoming. I've lived my entire life in Fairfax County, grew up in the Route 1 corridor in the southeastern end of the county, and so it's always great to be this close to home. What's most important today is what we're celebrating, which could not have happened without a whole lot of people's efforts. And it's about time, right? Right? It's about time. I want to start by acknowledging the school board for the outstanding work that they have done to get us to this point. But I really want to honor the inspirational kids, students, alumni, community members who were steadfast in their support of the renaming of this school, Lewis High School. They are the real reason why we're here and the reason why we do our work every day as elected officials, not only to support our community, but we know that our future is in the hands of the students in buildings like this one, and I feel great about that. You know, I had an opportunity on a few occasions to meet Congressman Lewis. I can't say I knew him personally, but I certainly had an opportunity to meet with him and chat very briefly at a couple of occasions. And I know how proud he is not only of this community, but how proud he would be to have his name associated with Fairfax County Public Schools and with Fairfax County. He was such an inspiration to so many of us. And every day when I go to work, I know I think about the good trouble that he caused and how we can provide ourselves with an opportunity to provide good trouble, because good trouble sometimes makes change happen. And the change that has happened here is something that will inspire students in this community, not just now, but for many, many generations to come. You know, I was talking with some folks from the PTA not long ago involved with this school, and they talked about the renewed sense of pride and spirit among the students and faculty here after the name change occurred. The pride that our community has to be standing in a school named after an icon of the civil rights movement, an icon who we all look up to and we all aspire to achieve just one or two of the many things that he aspired and that he achieved. And particularly now, as we are talking more steadfast about race and about justice and about equality and about civility, this is a time, I can't think of a better time to honor John Lewis and to rename this school. And so it is an absolute pleasure for me to be here on behalf of the Board of Supervisors. I will tell you, we fully support the renaming of this school, but most importantly, we'll support the future success of this school and make sure that county resources are here to not only promote this community and its students, but also to make sure that Fairfax County continues to be a shining star when it comes to education achievement equity and inclusion, civility, and appreciation that our diversity truly is our strength. And that's something that we live by in Fairfax County. And so it's an honor to be here with so many individuals who made it a point to make sure today happened, and it is about time. And to that I say, always, go Lewis Lancers.
Thank you, Chairman McKay. And now I'm proud to introduce our next speaker, the Chair of the Fairfax County School Board and the Mason District Representative, Dr. Riccardi Anderson. Dr. Anderson is an educator, a parent, a community volunteer, and a former reservist in the United States Army. She has over 23 years of experience in education, serving as a teacher and as a principal in both elementary and middle schools. Please welcome, ladies and gentlemen, School Board Chair, Dr. Riccardi Anderson.
These lights are very bright. Good evening, everyone. Mrs. Smith, students, and staff, you've done a wonderful job preparing for today's festivities. This is a momentous day for Fairfax County Public Schools and for the Fairfax County community. It is no exaggeration to say that this entire country applauded the student-powered change that led to the renaming of this school. The significance of this moment was captured in a question, as mentioned earlier by Principal Smith, on Jeopardy this week, and hopefully you all know the answer. In 2020, Robert E. Lee High School in Springfield, Virginia, was renamed for this late congressman and civil rights icon. You've got it. Who is John R. Lewis? First and foremost, he was a champion for the marginalized. He was a courageous leader, dedicated to challenging injustice and inspiring hope. He was a marcher, an orator, and a man of great principle. As our nation concludes another difficult week, reflective of systemic injustice, I have been thinking about what Congressman Lewis would say if he were here today. I think he would call us to action. Before his death, he lamented, quote, "I feel sometimes we're sliding backwards. The scars and stains of racism are deeply embedded in American society, and we have to deal with it. This is our charge, to heal these scars, to wash away these stains. You, our students, this community, were brave to push for the renaming of this school. You are not content to allow the status quo to persist, and look at what you have accomplished. You washed away one of the stains from our past and uplifted a man whose life was spent fighting against systems of injustice. I look around today and I see so many smiles, and I am proud to be part of this moment. I want to thank my colleagues, Ms. Tammy Darnack-Koufax and Ms. Karen Keys-Gamarra, for sponsoring this name change. I'm thrilled to be able to say that when I became chair of the Fairfax County School Board, this was one of the first actions that I had the opportunity to chair, and I will forever cherish that memory. I also want to thank the students and the alumni who shared their stories with the school board and fought to ensure future generations can learn and work in an environment that allowed them to feel safe, valued, and included. As Congressman Lewis once said, today is a good day, a great day. You must use every minute, every hour, and every day to make your mark on this world, to make it a little bit more peaceful, a little cleaner, and a little greener. Lewis Lancers, you are making your mark, and the school board could not be prouder. Congratulations. I I am also thrilled to introduce our next speaker, and I know this community is near and dear to her heart. As a school board member representing Lewis High School, Tammy Dernock Koufax. She's still being introduced. Ms. Koufax worked closely with the community on the school renaming, and she is a longtime advocate for children's causes and educational issues. She served as chair of the school board in 2014 and has held several leadership positions on the board and in the community. She's also the proud parent of 2 FCPS graduates. Please welcome school board member Tammy Dernock Koufax.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. And yes, I am the proud school board member representing this district, this school, and I am honored to have all of you here today to celebrate with our students, our families, and our community the dedication of our school as John R. Lewis High School. Yes. As a civil rights icon, a congressman, and a passionate leader, John Robert Lewis's voice and his example for living are needed more today than ever before. As he often asked, how can I transform the environment in which I live, all while subscribing to the philosophy of nonviolence? The significance of his life's work is clearly connected to where we find ourselves today as a nation. Congressman Lewis has said, if you're not hopeful and optimistic, then you just give up. But you have to take the long, hard look and just believe that if you are consistent, you will succeed. And look around this room. You can feel the positive energy. Even amid a COVID pandemic, you can see what transformation, a renaming can have in our school. The uplifting spirit and joy were evident as we walked through those doors, and I hope you all have had a chance to see our hallways, the beautiful murals inside and out, and the student-made portrait of Congressman Lewis. I do want to thank the muralist, who I just learned and met today is an alumni. His name is Ramandeep Singh. I also want to thank Lewis art teacher Leslie O'Shaughnessy and student artist Taya Boyd for sharing your talents. I want to thank all of those involved in putting this celebration together, starting with our principal, Mr. Alfonso Smith, our regional superintendent, Dr. Nardis King, Lewis staff, Susan Boswell Sears, Kim Harrison, Lisa Koch, Mimi Marquette, Mar Avicendo, Shannon Lynch, Nancy McCallop, Sequesta Myers, Greg Pickett, Lourdes Salas, and Adam Schechter. Parent representative, Denise Winston, Executive Assistant Cheryl Austin, Legislative Aide Nelda Brown, and students Natalie Black, Amanda Hurst, and Rowan Hashim. Thank you all for putting this together. This is a beautiful day. And I know we will be treated to additional music and words from our students, and our students here at Lewis High School are inspirational. You can see it took a village to get us where we are here today. This process began long ago in February 2019 when a previous school board was updating policies and regulations, conducting town halls and conversations. We knew that Confederate values did not align with our community, that Confederate names inflicted pain and hurt. We wanted our school to be a place where all students, staff, and members of the community felt safe and supported as they walked through our doors. In July of 2020, after work that carried through 2 school boards, we were able to meet our deadline of having a new name at this school in the start of the 2020 school year. I am proud of the students, I am proud of the community, and I am proud of my colleagues and everyone who has helped to get this change done. And we have the nation watching. from the New York Times to People magazine. And Dr. Anderson stole my punchline here. The question for Jeopardy was, in 2020, Robert E. Lee High School in Springfield, Virginia was renamed for this late congressman and civil rights icon. And the answer is, I'll do it again, John R. Lewis. We know that John Lewis's extraordinary life and advocacy for racial justice will be an inspiration for our students and community for generations to come. That the name John Robert Lewis High School will serve as a constant symbol of strength, conviction, and commitment to improving the lives of our students. And for our students, it will represent the importance of believing in oneself and not giving up. And of course, to never be afraid to make some noise and get into good trouble. I thank you all for being with us here today and for celebrating. And again, welcome to John R. Lewis High School. And now I must introduce one of my dear colleagues. It gives me great pleasure to introduce my partner, school board member Karen Keys-Gamarra. Ms. Keys-Gamarra is an attorney and a child advocate who often collaborates with various state and local agencies to improve the lives of children and families. She has worked with many community organizations supporting children. She is the proud parent of 3 sons who have attended Fairfax County Public Schools through elementary, middle, and high school. I now ask you to please welcome my colleague and friend, Ms. Keys-Gamarra.
Wow, what a day. I didn't feel like I could stand here with a jacket on and hide all this lusciousness of this name up here, Lewis High School. Woo! Today, in this renaming ceremony, we have the privilege of honoring the civil rights icon, John R. Lewis. He exemplified the principle that the light and love in the heart of one man can change the world. From the kind words he spoke as a boy when he preached to chickens, to the humility it took to follow those who led him into his destiny, this light, this love in one man allows us to celebrate today. His was a life dedicated to recognizing not just his own needs, but those of his community, his people, and his nation. Like a well-seasoned prophet, he foresaw that someone would need to not just see the fight, but run to it. He not only was a man of faith who prayed on bridges, but he became a bridge to the very hope that we all cherish. John Lewis knew the words of the Equal Protection Clause that says that we are not to deprive a person of life and liberty or property or due process of law or equal protection under the law. These were the words that he knew were not yet realized for everyone who resides in this nation. And so he ran to that bridge in Selma because he saw what was needed. He was there for you. He was there for me. He was there for my 3 African-American sons. He was there for our children's children because he had the foresight to know that getting into good trouble was both his burden and his privilege. In many ways, he foresaw what we all trembled through earlier this week as we anxiously awaited for the Chauvin trial to end and the verdict. When John Lewis crossed that bridge in Selma, he did it so that we could all learn to see humanity in our neighbors and to abolish the hatred that could cause blindness in this nation. It is his light that now allows us to celebrate as we consciously turn our backs on a past that only valued some, and we purposely look toward a promising future for all of us. If Congressman Lewis were here today, I believe he would be celebrating with us. And I would believe that he would ask us, all of us, to ensure that we make not just this place, but Fairfax County a place for our students from all over the county to learn about how to make good trouble through an academy that would be established to prepare students to dedicate their lives, as he did, to the noble cause of public service, and that those students would be allowed to focus on developing leadership skills, understanding government, learning the process of developing public policy, and fighting for human rights. I truly believe that John Lewis's light is shining on us today and inspiring us to fight on, to prepare every student, and to thrive in our schools, and to choose to serve in their communities, just as he did. I hope to work with all of our leaderships, local representatives, state, federal, the business community, toward that goal. I know that the students of this school and Fairfax County will continue with our support to make us proud. Congratulations. Let's see. I believe we will have a musical selection at this time.
Excuse me. I'm not going to sing. And you do not want that. Thank you, Ms. Keys-Gamarra. Now we're going to actually transition into our special tributes here. So what's going to happen here, ladies and gentlemen, in addition to our new school name, I'm going to give you a little bit of insight of exactly why I am the proud principal of John R. Lewis High School. Now, I can think of about 1,700 reasons, but I have at least 7 of them here today. They are students who have a voice, and more important to that, they know how to use that voice. They're not afraid to share that voice with you. And so, what I'm going to do today is I present to you our greatest asset here at John R. Lewis High School, our students. We're going to go with Charles, Andrea Grace, Rowan, Amanda, Kim, Khadijah, and Luna. Share your voices.
Thank you. And now we honor him. Because his arms were in chains, he marched in the rain, he suffered through the pain to proclaim we choose not to abstain our dictations, yet to rid the strains that stain our nation. And now we honor him. Because his sacrifice, endless nights of peaceful fights for equal rights, he set his sights to be greater, to reach new heights, a mediator of black, brown, and white. And now we honor him because he surpassed expectation. And in the House, he led this nation with assertions that our expectation should be acclamation and cooperation, not a culmination of defamation which stems from times of segregation. And now we honor him, because even after passing on, with every day and every dawn, we continue to fight to right what's wrong. And remember, the nation we walk upon was built by people all long gone. And thereupon, when it sinks to rubble, hope prevails and prosperity's double. So have hope and remember to get in good trouble. Thank you.
As a young Black woman, being able to witness and speak at such a historic moment is an honor. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. This school holds significance to everybody here. Being honored with the title of a man who is both a monumental civil rights advocate and a person each and every student at this school can see themselves in and resonate with is something that all of us should take pride in. We, as a student body, are stepping into a new chapter, one that we can and should look back on with reverence, following in the footsteps of John Lewis and making sure that we continue his legacy using the knowledge that he has given to us in order to enact change within our community is a tall order. It is our duty to rise and complete it. John R. Lewis is a symbol of perseverance in the face of injustice, and how the fight for equality is one that everybody must participate in. John R. Lewis is known for his phrase, "good trouble," but I find the full quote to be most inspiring and significant to ourselves as students. Lewis said how, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble." The determination of our peers, students who came from that sea of disparity and use it as fuel to advocate for change, is why we are here today. If it weren't for students at our school pushing, speaking up and out where they could, and sometimes even where they couldn't, we would not be here today, celebrating this historic name change and honoring the man behind it. I challenge my entire class to utilize our remaining years in high school to stay vigilant and focused on educating and furthering ourselves in the hopes that we too can make such a significant and necessary difference to human life the way John Lewis did. It is our time as students, as a class, as a people, to step into the future we are cultivating for ourselves. John R. Lewis High School is a name. It's a title. It's a newfound pride that all of us should have within ourselves. That pride is something that I firmly possess and promise to honor for the remainder of my journey through school. My name is Andrea Grace Makuna, and I am becoming John Lewis.
Today, we celebrate our school's renaming to John Robert Lewis High School and our journey that brought us here. A journey that wouldn't have been possible without my fellow classmates and leaders. But we all know that we can't stop here. There's still more work to do. So where do we go from here? We will build a stronger community, advocate for our new identity, and collectively speak out about the injustices happening around us. And this means everyone's effort is needed. Our faculty, our students, our community, our county, and not just a handful of us, but all of us. John Lewis's famous saying, "I believe that you see something that you want to get, you cannot give up, and you cannot give in," should resonate with all of us. We will be a high school and community that's crossing over, and one that encompasses the qualities that John Lewis embodied: fearlessness, authenticity, and strength. We will embrace our diversity and use that as our driving force in being a strong student body that speaks truth to power. Let today's celebration inspire you, my classmates and students, to keep going, to keep learning about what's around us, and to keep reminding people that we are John Lewis. You must be bold, brave, and courageous to find a way to get in the way. If another generation can get in the way, or get in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble, I too can do something. I too can get in trouble for the greater good. Moving forward is going to be a continuation of the journey that we have started, and it may not be easy, but it begins with courage. The work is necessary, and it will pave the way for our next generation of student leaders. I am Rawan Hashim, and I am becoming John R. Lewis.
We gather here today to honor the integrity and strength of our school's namesake, Congressman John R. Lewis, whose legacy reminds us that we have much to be working towards. We must continue to move forward as one people, as brothers and sisters. We must move forward, but make no mistake to forget our past failures. We come here today with great optimism for the future of this school and the thousands of students who will follow. But we also come here today with the acknowledgement of our shared past and recent events that illustrate just how far we still must travel. We know we are not perfect, that there are bridges that currently stand in the void between us, bridges that must be crossed. However, there is a light. As students at John R. Lewis High School, we will choose to be the light that cannot be dampened, dimmed, or diminished. For we study the path for others to make your way easier and more abundant. John R. Lewis students know that the fight is not over. We, the students of John R. Lewis High School, recognize that we have an obligation to condemn speech that is racist, bigoted, anti-Semitic, or hateful. We must have raw courage, not just to see what is wrong in the world, but to act against it, to use our voices to speak out and make good trouble. Since our renaming, Lewis students have aided in changing not one, but 2 schools in the Fairfax County area that had a similar situation as the one we were in. We will continue to serve our community by participating in local park cleanups and volunteering at retirement centers and food pantries. We will continue to join working groups that advocate for curriculum that is not exclusive, instead one that teaches a curriculum about all people, for all people. One that will truly teach us the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that we are able to go into the world with the knowledge of the deep history that lives around us. We will continue advocating to make these walls a place where students are one people. What makes us different is not the thing that keeps us apart, nor is it a thing that is ignored or assimilated. We will continue to advocate for this building to be a center for civic engagement, for leadership, for public policy, and for human rights, principles that John Lewis stood for and worked for during his life. At John R. Lewis High School, we educate and we empower all. We are John R. Lewis. I am Amanda Hurst, and I am becoming John R. Lewis. Thank you.
Hold on, let me put my lip gloss on real quick. Y'all know the vibes. Shortly and briefly, names are important. It took 6+ years to reach the moment that we are at right now. As a current student, a current Black student, I'm grateful to have gotten to this point as we celebrate this beautiful moment in history. And while we are here to celebrate, I also think it important that we remember and acknowledge that to get here, it was not an easy journey. It took the tireless efforts of community members and the grit of students like myself to get here. As a school, we became used to hold on, not yet, but for no longer. We wanted it right now, and we were gonna get it. Our name is more than just a little change. It is a testament to boldness and going against the grain. It is a hallmark of perseverance in the face of adversity and proof that when you're doing something right, no one can tell you to stop. Names are important. My name is Kimberly Ajewa Yakakra Boateng, a name bestowed upon me with many syllables, each and every one significant and holding
importance to my family's legacy, my Ghanaian heritage, and who I am as a person. Name holds purpose and power. Names are important. Last year, I served as the student representative to the school board, so if you're wondering where you saw me, that's probably where. And honestly, I love to sit here and say that it was easy going, everything was chill, but honestly, it was scary. Standing here before you is scary. And sometimes people weren't the nicest. Sometimes, especially when I was advocating for the name change, I heard mean things, mean names, ridiculous, foolish, dumb. And I'd like to say it didn't hurt, but it did, because you know why? Names are important. And I want to echo that over and over again. It's likely that people grew tired of me last year, going on and on and on about the importance of a name at every school board event, every interview, every meeting. I knew people were getting tired of me, just as people were likely getting tired of seeing John Lewis at every sit-in, every freedom ride, and every march. Always remember, when you fight for what you believe in, people will get tired of you. But as long as you don't get tired, that's what makes the difference. We didn't give up. I didn't give up. And by doing so, I, Kimberly Ajewa Ya Kakra Boateng, am becoming John Lewis. Where's my mask go? Uh-oh. Where's my mask go?
It all started during Lancer time freshman year. Many of us weren't here for this, but it was then when we received a copy of the first graphic novel in the trilogy March by John R. Lewis. At that time, I didn't understand the depth of the topic past his organizing for the March on Washington, but I also didn't realize how much the book impacted me beyond that. I took March with me as I created the petition. I took March with me as I spoke at public hearings regarding the name change. And I take March with me here today, speaking with you all here. As a freedom writer, John R. Lewis traveled the country with several anti-racists and activists, enduring the name-calling and violence in order to stand for what he believed in, equal rights for all people in this country. His final words, written in an essay to be published, mentioned, and I quote, "Emmett Till was my George Floyd. He was my Rayshard Brooks, Sandra Bland, and Breonna Taylor. He was 14 when he was killed, and I 15 at the time. I will never, ever forget the moment when it became so clear that he could have easily have been me. In those days, fear constrained us like an imaginary prison, and troubling thoughts of potential brutality committed for no understandable reason were the bars. Through all of his organizing, John Lewis understood that the civil rights movement was only the beginning, and continued in his essay by saying, "Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. In my life, I have done all I can to demonstrate that the way of peace, the way of love and nonviolence, is the more excellent way. Now it is your turn to let freedom ring." We are here now following the closure of the Derek Chauvin trial, as he is properly convicted for the violent and brutal murder of George Floyd. While it is easy to say that this chapter is over and done with, there is so much more work that needs to be done. From mass murder to police brutality, these injustices cannot continue to be ignored. And John Lewis recognized that. He closed off his final essay with the following: "When historians pick up their pens to write the story of the 21st century, let them say that it was your generation who laid down the heavy burdens of hate at last, and that peace finally triumphed over violence, aggression, and war. So I say to you, walk with the wind, brothers and sisters, and let the spirit of peace and the power of everlasting love be your guide." When we discuss becoming John R. Lewis, we are talking about upholding the legacy of a man who stood for civil rights and social justice at the core root of equity, through abolition and civil disobedience, through creating good trouble, necessary trouble. To become John Lewis is to create conversations within our school about things we don't quite agree with, rather than dismissing it as the only way. To become John Lewis is to create a space for students of color to attend school without feeling like any mistake will be punished with carceral means. To become John Lewis is to center these important conversations around the experiences of students of color, because more often than not, our opinions are dismissed as we allow people who have never once been in our shoes to make decisions regarding us. To become John Lewis is to let our Black boys and girls wear the do-rags, head wraps, and bonnets we've been culturally blessed with, instead of shaming us for embracing our heritage. To become John R. Lewis is to let our students and staff in the Latina community speak their native tongue without so much of a side glance or a question of their intentions. Through fighting for our community, our diversity, and our cultures, the same way John Lewis and the Freedom Riders took to the streets to fight for us, we can take the steps necessary in becoming John R. Lewis. I challenge you as I, Khadijah Ismail, am becoming John R. Lewis. Thank you.
Wow. If you asked me if I would be back here when I was a Lee High School freshman, I would have said nope. Now, as a college freshman, there is no place I would rather be. During my 11th grade History of Americas class, I learned about the man who our school was named after, and I was shocked to discover he was a Confederate general who inherited slaves. I did my research, and I supported Fairfax County's NAACP charter in hopes to change my high school's name once and for all. I reached out to admin and educators from my school and Justice High School, eager to gain support for the name change. During this process, many students and administrators asked me, "Why are you in support of the name change? This school has many problems, but its name is not one of them." Additionally, I've been told that I don't know anything, I'm just a student. Little did they know that I am a Lancer who doesn't quit but perseveres. I testified in front of the school board and stated these words that I still live by. Our previous name welcomed a negative connotation. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but if people don't like the feeling that they get from the title, are they still willing to read? What I mean by this is that my school is beautiful in marvelous ways. Our diversity strengthens our community. Our shield of diligence keeps us comforted. The name of our school neglects all those aspects. Changing the school's name was the first step in a long process of change. FCPS states that racism is not welcomed in our schools. However, institutionalized racism is deeply rooted in education to the point where it can determine a student's success. The name change has welcomed thought-provoking discussions among students and admin. Now there has been an awareness of racism at the school. Educators are focused on success for all students without racially inherent biases. Furthermore, more students from the class of 2021 got accepted to IVs more than last year, and we're hoping to see an increase of these numbers in the following years. Not only that, watch as the graduation rate from Lewis increases, as well as test scores and overall achievements. Be careful, because you just might be sitting next to a future president. I'm anticipating various victories from all Lewis students. In addition to guaranteeing equal opportunities at the school, whiteness is no longer flying beneath the radar in education, and that's the biggest win anyone can ask for. Racial injustices will not just slide at the school anymore. There are now diverse administrators at Lewis to suit all students' needs and concerns. This not only ensures students of color's voices will be elevated, but it also guarantees representation in the highest positions of education. Principal Smith for the name change truly motivated me to believe that anything is possible if I set my mind to it. Lewis High School, under Principal Smith's leadership, will be a prosperous, safe space for students all over FCPS. This is bigger than a name change. This is education innovation. We have changed the dynamic in Fairfax County Public Schools. We became the precedent for equitable schools all across America. We became the face of diversity and resilience in education. We have depicted miraculous achievements just from our name change, and this is just the beginning. Maybe you might have not envisioned Lewis High School, but Lewis High School chose us. This is our chance to take John R. Lewis's legacy and make it our own. We aspire to be passionate Lancers who use our suffering as fuel for motivation. With our hard work and determination, we will be able to stir up some good trouble in order to create powerful advancements. This is why I'm honored to be here amongst future doctors, politicians, artists, and so much more. You, and you, and you, and you are the future. You restored my faith in the education system and continue to amaze me. Strive to be great and never let an adult gaslight you. Most importantly, your voice matters. Even though they denied John R. Lewis a voice, do you think that stopped him? John R. Lewis fought so that you could succeed. And one thing this school has taught me is that student success is the best success. If I could be brave enough to speak in front of a panel of school board members, then you can take a risk that gets you what you want and deserve. I am grateful to be a part of such an impactful journey. I am proud to say I am John R. Lewis.
While I take my mask off, I'm sure you all don't mind standing to your feet and giving it up for our students and alumni. I'll take just a second. Come on. And just while we're standing, I know I have permission at least from one. I didn't ask. Kim, can I share that news you shared with me earlier? If it's no, it's no. I'm not gonna. Okay. All right. So on this stage, we mentioned Luna is here at UVA. We also have a student who is headed to Stanford, Miss Khadijah, and hot off the presses, Columbia University, Miss Kimberly Boateng. So if any of you are watching out there, they're coming to school. There's power in this room that's coming your way. So be prepared for that, okay? Again, great job, students. Great job. Great job. Okay, you can take your seats. Thank you. So we're now going to transition to another musical selection. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about how, by chance, Jeopardy happened this week. Also, over the last few months, and while we're planning for this particular celebration today, I was contacted by one of my former colleagues who mentioned that they had a friend of theirs who, by chance, had written and produced a very special song. So, thank you, Hope. So she contacted me, congratulated me in my new role, and connected me to this particular friend. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to present to you now song called John Lewis Lives, written and performed by Alan Scott, who's just north of us in PG County, and Reuben Studdard.
At the same time, was something deep down within me, moving me, that I could no longer be satisfied or go along with an evil system, that I had to be maladjusted to it. And in spite of all of this, I had to keep loving the people who denied me service, who stared at me.
Where there is hope, where there is freedom, where we fight for justice, y'all. John Lewis lives. When you build a bridge made of faith, made of courage, he will walk beside you. Yes, John Lewis lives. You are not alone. Trouble. your trouble, y'all. John Lewis lives. You are not alone on this road to freedom. He will march beside you. Yes, he will. John Lewis lives. John Lewis lives. John Lewis lives. John Lewis lives. John Lewis lives.
Now, I told you you didn't want to hear me sing, but I could do a mean two-step. And that makes me want to do that two-step. Is there not a more appropriate song for this occasion? Well, I mean, what are the chances of that, right? He will march beside you, John Lewis lives. Wow. Okay, so thank you for allowing us to share such a beautiful song with our guest today, Mr. Scott. We appreciate the permission. We know that you're watching us virtually as well, so we thank you for that. We're going to now transition to some personal reflections by some of our special guests who had the pleasure of knowing Congressman Lewis. They will be introduced by Ms. Tammy Dernack-Koufax.
Thank you. Wow, that was simply amazing. If you're watching online, that was absolutely beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. And to all the speakers that are coming after our powerful, amazing students, good luck, because you are all amazing. Thank you. And we hear you. We hear your voice. Thank you. Thank you. So our first guest gives me great pleasure to introduce Senator Tim Kaine. Senator Kaine has been a longtime supporter of schools, even managing to visit every school in every county in the Commonwealth of Virginia when he served as governor. I would now like to introduce and thank you, Senator Tim Kaine, for being with us here today.
Good afternoon, John Lewis Lancers, and the students are very impressive. It's hard to follow them. I've never been to the renaming of a school. I've been in public life for 27 years. I've been to the renaming of courthouse buildings and other public buildings. I've been to the renaming of bridges. I was a co-sponsor this year of a bill to rename every military installation in the United States named after Confederates, including Forts Lee, Fort Pickett, and Fort A.P. Hill in Virginia. I participated in the renaming of my own street. I live on a 4-block-long street in Richmond that has been known as Confederate Avenue since 1919. The 62 houses on our street decided to rename a few years ago, and we learned it's easy to decide to remove a name. It's hard to pick a new name. The 62 houses put in 36 different options for the new name. But I've never been to the renaming of a school. And what a wonderful thing to stand and hear these students and others offer their testimonies about why this school is henceforth John R. Lewis High School. I want to tell 2 John Lewis stories and then just offer a bit of a lesson, I guess. My John Lewis stories. I knew John Lewis from books. I was a civil rights lawyer for 17 years, and I read everything I could about the civil rights movement to help inform me in my work before I got into public life. And so I knew John Lewis as a hero from books. And then I came to the Senate in 2013 and got to know John Lewis the man, a living book, a talking book, a flesh and blood book, a good book. In March of 1964, I went with John Lewis on a civil rights pilgrimage to Mississippi and Alabama to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Freedom Summer, where students from around the United States went south to try to register voters. The first stop was at the Ground Zero Blues Club in Clarksdale, Mississippi. People on the group, knowing that I played blues music, made me get up and play with the band on stage, and John Lewis said, "That was pretty good." That is the single best compliment I've ever gotten in my entire life. But then the rest of the weekend was serious. We went to Fannie Lou Hamer's hometown. We went to the store where Emmett Till spoke to a white woman working behind a cash register that led to his lynching. We went to the house where Medgar Evers was shot. We went to the spot in Jackson, Mississippi, where African American students at an HBCU were gunned down during the civil rights and Vietnam era protests. And then we went to Selma, Alabama, and I marched with John Lewis across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And this book was now flesh and blood talking to us about the struggles and talking about the struggles of today and urging us to keep marching. As I left to come over here today, one of my staffers told me the second John Lewis story. And I didn't know this about my staffer. My staffer, Nebi Betra, who works in my communications team, was a student at Boston University, and she was given the honor of introducing John Lewis at an event where he was speaking on campus. These events happen all the time. The student comes up and meets the important figure, and the important figure says, "Great, it's nice to meet you," and then turns their attention to somebody else. But John Lewis said, "Nebi, tell me about you. What are you studying?" Nebi was conflicted at the time. She had wanted to be a journalist her whole life, but as she got into the middle of her studies at Boston University, she suddenly decided, I don't think I can be objective. I don't think I can be neutral. I don't think I can be independent. I'm an advocate. And she shared her conflict with John Lewis. I've had a dream my whole life, and now I'm not sure I can do it. And he said, well, you like communicating. Yes, I like communicating. You can communicate for candidates or causes. You can communicate for office holders. You don't have to give up your goal of being a journalist or communicator. Just do it in a different way. Nebi told me that conversation with John Lewis changed the trajectory of her life. Last thing I'll say is this, and it really goes back to what Kim said, names matter. Names matter. All of you recognize and support the name change of Robert E. Lee High School to John R. Lewis High School, but some don't. I've been involved in a lot of name changes as a public official. And let me tell you the two arguments that people make to you about why you shouldn't change names, because in case you run into somebody who makes one of these arguments, I want to arm you with a really good response. The first thing they'll tell you is you can't change history. You can't erase history. You can't rewrite history. And guess what? They're right. You can't change history. You can't erase history. You can't rewrite history. And sometimes the most important history for us to know is the most painful history, because it can encourage us to be better. But the name change of Robert E. Lee High School to John R. Lewis High School is not a change of history. It's human beings deciding to change who we honor. And we should always be willing to change who we honor. In fact, we shouldn't just be willing to change who we honor. We should have to change who we honor. When a narrow group of a previous society decides who to honor, and a more full and complete group of a current society decides that person is no longer worthy of honor, we should change a name. And the second reason, before I sit down, why people will tell you you shouldn't change a name, and Kim referred to it in her talk, is, oh, that's not important. There are other issues that are more important. I'm going to prove to you how important it is. Everybody knows the story of Adam and Eve in the garden, right? First story in the Old Testament. Because the Old Testament is sacred both to Christians and Jews, it's very important to both religions. And the Adam and Eve in the garden story is also in the Quran. So this is a story, however you feel about Scripture, different religions, different traditions have made this an origin story of the world. What is the first power that God gives to Adam? He brings all the animals before Adam and says, it's your job to name all of this creation. In that story, however you take it, if God was powerful enough to make everything, he could have created a name for everything. But the first power given to mankind was the power to name. You cannot tell me that names are not important. And you have done a very good thing by embracing the power that you have to decide who is worthy in 2020 of being honored. Thank you for letting me participate today.
Thank you so much, Senator Kaine. And I am very happy to introduce our next guest, U.S. Representative Don Beyer. Congressman Don Beyer is serving his 4th term in the United States as U.S. Representative from Virginia's 8th District, representing Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, and parts of Fairfax County. He serves as the chairman of Congress's Joint Economic Committee and also serves on the House Committee on Ways and Means and on the House Committee on Science, Space Technology, where he chairs the Space Subcommittee. He is the co-chair of the New Democratic Coalition's Climate Change Task Force. Congressman Beyer has been a very strong supporter of protecting and strengthening our public schools and supporting education. I am pleased to introduce my congressman, Congressman Don Beyer.
So much eloquence. I tell you how proud I am right now that I voted to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote. You know, one of my favorite pieces of wisdom is that who a person is often more important than what that person does. With John Lewis, he did a lot of things. I mean, he was a civil rights leader. He was an amazing member of Congress. He was a comic book star, or actually called, not graphic novel, but a graphic biography. He even been arrested dozens of times. But far more important was who he was. He was a kind man, a gentleman, a humble man, and above all, a brave man. My office was right next to his my first couple of years on the 3rd floor of the Cannon office building. So I would always take the stairs down unless John was walking with me over to votes, because he took the elevator and I would ride the elevator with him. And you know, I was always a little intimidated, but everybody on the elevator, the kids, the visitors, that he made an attempt to reach out to each and every one and ask them about themselves, where they were from. They were usually in awe of him, but he was just so gentle and so genuine. I sat below him on Ways and Means the last couple of years. He didn't speak a lot there, but whenever he spoke, everyone else got quiet. When you speak on the House floor, it's chaos. It's like the largest high school you've ever been in, except when John Lewis spoke. And then Democrats and Republicans. He was the most beloved and respected person in the U.S. House. We called him the moral center of Congress. He was our heart. You know, Megan and I also did the trip to the South. We had a different one. We went to Memphis with John Lewis to see the motel where Dr. King was shot, and then to Birmingham to the church where the 4 little girls were blown up. And then the grand finale was the walking over the Edmund J. Pettus Bridge with John Lewis. I thought this was, you know, I'd heard about people doing this before. I thought this is going to be, you know, a bold thing. Actually, there were 2,000 of us, and we took steps about 2 inches long. It took an hour to get over the bridge. But that moment and that photograph is one of the best things in my life. We need to cut the ribbon. So I'm Don Beyer, and I can only hope the sum of John R. Lewis has rubbed off on me. Thank you. One second. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Beyer. Our next speaker is someone who has a long history here in Fairfax. Congressman Gerald Jerry Conley is serving his 7th term in the U.S. House of Representatives from Virginia's 11th District, which includes Fairfax County, Prince William County, and the city of Fairfax in Northern Virginia. Prior to his election in Congress, he served 14 years on the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors, including 5 years as its chairman. Congressman Conley believes in early childhood education, public education, and college access programs. They spur innovation and set our young people on a path to lifelong success. Please help me welcome Congressman Jerry Conley.
Thank you, Sandy. Lewis High School. Names matter. Names convey power. Tim Kaine talked about the stories of Genesis. God in Genesis is named Yahweh. Yahweh in Hebrew means the nameless one. because man cannot name God. And to transfer the power to Adam and Eve to be able to name the animals of the earth was to give them power. Now, we're doing more than just celebrating a name today. We are correcting history. And it's a painful history we have to remember. This place was named after a man who for 150 years was lionized and romanticized as an iconic figure to be admired in American history. Indeed, he was a very capable general who helped engineer, because of his devotion to slavery, the deaths of 650,000 Americans in the most cataclysmic event in our history, the Civil War. And he was reconstructed after he surrendered at Appomattox until his death 5 years later. He believed in the inferiority of African Americans. He opposed equality. He opposed voting rights. And he made it clear and did it specifically and explicitly. That was that iconic hero, Robert E. Lee. Now, fast forward. After 100 years of Jim Crow, as if the Civil War had not been fought, enslavement by any other name, 100 more years, the Supreme Court of the United States in Brown v. Board of Education says, enough. Separate but unequal education is unconstitutional. And the reaction here in Virginia, led by our own Senator Harry F. Byrd, was something called massive resistance. He said, we're going to resist that Supreme Court ruling. We're not going to integrate our schools. We like separate but equal. Actually, separate but unequal. And it was during that massive resistance this school got named after Robert E. Lee. Names convey power. And a message was being sent. If you were black, especially, when we named that school, this school, you were not welcome. You are not equal. You shouldn't be educated with me and my children. Now, doesn't that put naming John Lewis in a different context? Contrast the man we're naming the school after with Robert E. Lee, the son of a sharecropper from Alabama, a passionate young man, impatient, Kimberly. He didn't want to wait either. He wrote a speech when Martin Luther King gave his famous I Have a Dream speech in 1963 at the Lincoln Memorial. People forget this about John Lewis. He wrote a speech that was so passionate, so incendiary, that the leadership of that march asked him not to give it. He was 23. And that passion never left him. People forget that at that bridge, the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, he had his cranium cracked. He had a concussion. He had brain damage. He almost didn't make it. He put his life on the line so that equality would move from a dream to reality. And he had no illusions about how hard it was. He was a gentle man. he called everybody brother or sister. He was also my neighbor when I got to Congress in Canton. But he was also a fierce man. Fierce about justice. A few years ago, the Republican leadership in the Congress refused to allow us to bring up as an amendment a provision to ban the sale of guns to anyone on the terrorist watch list at the FAA, at the Federal Aviation Administration. Now, I don't know, common sense says, if we think you're a terrorist, we shouldn't sell you a gun. And we were not allowed to bring that amendment up for consideration. And for many of us, that after so many slaughters all around the country, that was too much. What to do? Let's go to see John Lewis. And of course, you can guess what he said to us when we said, John, what can we do to bring this amendment to the floor for consideration? He had 2 words for us: sit in. And John Lewis helped us organize the first sit-in in the history of the Congress of the United States. Good trouble. We didn't know if we'd be arrested. To sit on the floor of the House and occupy it, even if you're a member, is illegal. But we knew that the Republican leadership didn't have the courage to haul John Lewis off the floor of the House, even if he was sitting on the floor. We didn't win that battle, but we felt pretty good sitting side by side with a man who had put his life on the line many, many times to bring justice to America. So for all of you who work here, all of you who will go through these halls, all of you who will study here and graduate from here, remember the honor that's bestowed on you in the power of the name John Lewis. God bless you.
Thank you, Congressman Conley, for those personal and very powerful words. It is the person I will be introducing next is our Supervisor Rodney Lusk, the lead district representative on the Fairfax County School Board. Supervisor Lusk has served his community as the Fairfax County employee for 31 years, from delivering human services along the historic Richmond Highway corridor, serving the staff of 2 different members of the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Conley and Kate Hanley, and to his former role as National Marketing Director at the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. There are a few aspects of the county government that Mr. Lusk has not touched. He's dedicated to our community and serving on several boards and advocating on behalf of schools and our residents. It's my pleasure to introduce my supervisor, Rodney Lusk.
Thank you. I'll say good afternoon or maybe good evening. When I think about the thousands of students, teachers, parents, and community members that have walked through the doors of this building and were greeted by symbols memorializing the most recognizable Confederate figure in our history, I feel a deep sense of regret. I feel that regret because symbols matter. That imagery had an impact on those individuals, and there's nothing that I or any of us can do to take that back. Those impacts have been felt most by our neighbors of color. As we grapple with the possibility of changing the name of the district in which we sit right now, the Lee District, one of my constituents said it best, and I quote, "These symbols send signals that at one point in our history, we were seen as commodities, not as human beings. She went on to explain how difficult it is for her as an African American to send her sons to school, only to have them come home and ask, why do I have to look at symbols and signs that tell me that I don't matter? She continued, if you want better outcomes and you want to close the education gap, then tell them that they matter. Send signs that tell them that going to school means something, and that one day they could grow up and be a supervisor in this community. Her words couldn't ring more true, although I have a feeling that many of them, on this stage in particular, are destined to go a lot further than being a county supervisor. But I can't imagine a symbol that better embodies the passion, commitment, and aspirations of her comments than the life of Congressman John Lewis. Now when these students come back and walk through these doors, members of our community as well, they won't be greeted by a symbol that memorializes and normalizes the injustices of our past, but rather celebrates the perseverance that overcame those injustices. It is that legacy, that symbol, that our students will look to now. As we work to bring a dedicated public service academy to John Lewis High School, I think back to all the leaders who have touched my life and who are themselves the embodiment of Congressman Lewis's values. From my own grandparents who raised me and taught me the value of community and of honoring my commitments, to Congressman Jerry Conley, who showed me firsthand the values of listening, empathy, and action in public service. In honor of their examples and the legacy of Congressman Lewis, I plan to be personally involved and committed to this future public service academy at this site, so that every student that comes through those doors and who has a calling for public service, they will have the support they need to be the next John Lewis. Thank you.
Thank you for your reflections, Supervisor Lusk. I'm now going to introduce our esteemed Regional Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Nardis King, Region 3.
Before I begin my remarks, I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge, thank my team at Region 3. They're in the audience right now, and without them, I could not do the work that I do every day. So thank you, team members. What an honor it is to be here today for the official rededication ceremony of John Robert Lewis High School, in honor of a trailblazer who fostered such meaningful change in advancing diversity and equality for all. I cannot find the words to express to you how I felt the first time I walked up to this building and looked up and saw John R. Lewis's name written there. I believe he would be delighted and truly humbled by this overwhelming acknowledgement of all that he has accomplished. What a humbling moment it is for me to be here before Lewis Lancers, young and old, to mark this very special occasion. Thank you all for being here both in person and virtually. My deepest gratitude to the Fairfax County School Board, our Superintendent, Dr. Scott Brabrand, the John R. Lewis Principal, Mr. Alfonso Smith, teachers, staff members, parents, community members, and most importantly, the students for embracing the new name and all that it embodies. Those students are the reason why we are here today. I am so pleased to be celebrating with you today. Reaching a major milestone like this can only be achieved through incredible teamwork. I am honored to work alongside you, and I want to publicly acknowledge the dedication and commitment it took to bring us here today. I am inspired. I hope you are as proud as I am today. You deserve to be. As students walk the halls of their wonderful school, may the spirit of Congressman Lewis motivate them to be their absolute best every day. Let us do everything we can to live up to the example he set for us. As he said, every generation leaves behind a legacy. What that legacy will be is determined by the people of that generation. Today is a day of celebration, but before we close, I would like to reflect for a minute on a phrase you have heard many times during this last year. When you see something that is not right, not fair, or not just, say something. Do something. Get in good trouble, necessary trouble. Well, John Lewis believed that young people could and should push for transformative change and hold us older generations accountable to it. He taught us the importance of speaking up and speaking out. We must be willing to speak up about injustice always. His hope was that we would continue his legacy, never forget history, pursue equality, and get in good trouble. Every time we walk up to this building and see that name, let us be reminded of the goodness of John R. Lewis, and let it inspire all of us to get into good trouble for the good of mankind. My heart is full as we conclude this rededication ceremony, becoming John R. Lewis High School. I am so glad we were able to come together today to officially inaugurate the new name for this great school. May the amazing stories of the life of John R. Lewis resonate with our students today and those in the future. In closing, I leave you with another quote from Congressman Lewis. If you come together with a mission, and it is grounded with love and a sense of community, you make the impossible possible. I am Dr. Nardis E. King, and I am John Lewis. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. King, for your thoughtful words and your continued leadership and support. We've heard from a lot of great speakers this evening, and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for participating and being a part of this today. I'm an educator, I'm a leader, I'm also a longtime coach. You know, I'm the son of a boxing coach, but my sport was basketball. I was a basketball coach, so I know the value of a great assist. So what I'm going to do right now is, in these closing remarks and in my charge here, I'm gonna take an assist from two people who we had the opportunity to meet recently, who were down in Atlanta, Georgia, who also were very connected to Congressman Lewis. Let's go ahead and take a look at the video. Ambassador Andrew Young and Council Member Julian Bonds.
Let's put the emphasis on good, because it's very easy to get into trouble, but it's not easy to get into good trouble. And because the thing about good trouble is it's always in the open. I would say that I would try to explain good trouble is what we call civil disobedience. We knew we were breaking the law, but we didn't do it sneakily, like we didn't want anybody to know anything about it. We knew that these laws were wrong, and we told the police and the Justice Department and the FBI at least 48 hours before we did wrong. We let them know we were going to do wrong, because that's the way you do the testing of the society, and that's the way society improves. Now, if you do it in secret, you might get away with it, but the purpose of good trouble is to help everybody deal with the trouble we're all in. It's not just trying to get something for ourselves.
Well, I'm very moved to know that there's been a high school named John Robert Lewis High School after the late, great Congressperson John Lewis. You know, as someone who knew him really for the entirety of my life, he knew me when I was a twinkle in my parents' eye before I even hit the earth. I'm very moved and happy and satisfied that this school system would do him the honor of placing his name, not just placing his name on a building, but in naming that school, he set a standard for all who work there, all who matriculate there. And as they've set John as a guidepost for the young people who are attending that school. So I'm very pleased by that. And I'm really hoping that the students and the faculty take the example of John's life, which they now have, from end to end, to use the lessons and the history of his life to impart that, and make an impression upon the young people who are there. That, he started from very meager beginnings to become one of the most influential people in our country at the last and of this century. And so from that, we know that there's greatness in everyone. There's ability in everyone. There's achievement in everyone. And so we want our young people to know that. We want them to, I'm glad they have a place where they've got a standard where they can measure up, they can measure themselves, not against their peers, but also against the inspiration of his life, so that we can have future John Lewis's all around our country born out of that school.
And again, I'm believing that you're watching us this evening. We thank you again, Ambassador Young and Councilmember Julian Bond. We salute you down there in Atlanta, Georgia. So thank you. Let's give them another hand, please. Okay, so I do want to get a few thank yous in as before I close with this charge. I do want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today. I want to thank you, Dr. Braybrand, FCPS leadership, FCPS school board members. Thank you all, elected officials who've joined us today. We can give everybody a hand. Yep. I'd also like to take time just to thank my staff, my entire staff. I'm going to ask y'all to stand in just a second. You don't stand quite yet, but I'm going to ask all of you to stand. But I'm thankful for each and every one of them because we're partnering together in working with our students and in working and being members of this community to really make sure that we take this name that we have and really take it seriously. So before I do that, I have to put special thanks, and if they're in the back there, can we the lights up just a little bit? A few people I have to thank specifically in addition to all my staff. Susan Boswell Sears, Mimi Marquet, Lisa Koch, and Kimberly Harrison. Can you guys just wave your hand if you're back there? I know, now all of these ladies, I'm gonna tell you, I talk about being on strong teams all the time. If you are ever on any type of team, you want these 4 individuals on your team. The work that they did behind the scenes, meeting, talking to a bunch of different people, a lot of different things changed, adding a lot of different things. The work that they did, I can't put into words how thankful I am for them. So let's give it up for them first and foremost. Don't sit down, ladies. Don't sit down. Because I need any other John R. Lewis staff member, any other John R. Lewis student, any other John R. Lewis parent to stand, please. Let's give them all a hand as they stand. So I want to thank you guys for the privilege of being able to partner with you. And I just want us to take everything that we've been able to hear just today and just really reflect on what we've heard from our students, what we've heard, just even what we've seen online about what this means to so many different people, and the fact that we are the chosen people to have John R. Lewis High School, that we're the ones. We're the ones that are doing this. So as we make history today, we're the ones that have that name on our school. but we're also the ones that have that responsibility that comes with it. We've talked about the power in that name. We have the power within us to do some big things. We're sending people to Columbia, to UVA. There's others. Please forgive me if I didn't mention your name by choice, but we're doing some big things here at John R. Lewis High School. So we've got to do it together. Like I said, I've worn that coach hat. I don't take that coach hat off. I don't believe in individuals. I tease my dad because he was a boxing coach, and I said it's all about the individual and what you can do one-on-one. Basketball, we got to do this together. We got to have great point guard play. We got to have a great shooting guard, center, power forward. Who am I leaving out? The small forward, yeah. And the bench. The bench is important as well. So we need each and every person, our custodial staff, our AAs. I'm thankful for each and every one of the individuals in this building, and we're going to do what we need to do some big things here at John R. Lewis. So I'm thankful for each and every one of you. Thank you. All right, so lastly, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to take a few people out with me, and just to make it as simple as possible, everyone who was with me in the library before the program, I'm going to ask you to stand real quick, and if you would, I'm going to take you all from the stage. We're going to go ahead and exit stage left, but everyone else who was with me in the library, if you would just excuse yourself right out the, actually I see Ms. Hudson there. Ms. Hudson, can you actually lead them right out the door, out 13, right to entrance 1. And we're going to go ahead and do the ribbon cutting. And then what we're going to do is you guys are going to be, you're going to have the opportunity to take a look at a very special video while we transition there, and then we'll get you right out of here, okay? And we do have a keepsake for everyone when you exit, so make sure before you leave you get that keepsake, a very special cookie. I'm sure you'll be directed in terms of exactly where that is located.
I can't
So excuse us for just a second. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you in just a bit.
We request that those who are seated to stay within the house, and we will watch it from the video. So not all people will be going out for the ribbon cutting.
Hi, Lancers. It's Ms. Dvorak, and I'm just going to let one of John R. Lewis's favorite songs tell you how I feel about the rededication ceremony.
Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Clap along.
I'm excited that I had the opportunity to be a part of the name-changing process and that I played a hand in such a historic thing. And I'm excited that we are the first class as a senior to graduate underneath the new name.
I'm Carla Hayden, Librarian of Congress, and congratulations to everyone at the John Lewis High School. Congressman Lewis was a great believer in the power of education and knowledge, and we are so pleased that you are celebrating him in this way.
Our school community stands together and for one another. For me, the name John R. Lewis embodies the spirit of what it means to be a Lewis Lancer: courage, compassion, dignity, and pride. I am honored to serve the students and families, both present and future, at John R. Lewis High School.
Last summer, through the work of our students and community, we changed the school name to John R. Lewis High School. With John Lewis's continuous fight for equality throughout his life, from the civil rights movement to his work in Congress, I can finally say that our school is named after an individual that accurately represents our students.
Me da tanto orgullo ser parte de esta familia nombrada por él, porque él era un hombre que luchaba por la justicia, igual que nosotros luchamos para que cada uno de nosotros alcance nuestros sueños. It's an honor to be a part of a family named after one who struggled, and we are joining him in the struggle so that all of us can obtain and fulfill our dreams. Go Lancers.
Hola a todos, estamos muy orgullosos de formar parte de Lewis Lancer.
Yeah!
Vamos Lancer.
Hi, I'm Chan Fan, and I am a pre-student at John R. Lewis High School. Go Lancers!
I am thankful that our school is named for a person who spent his life promoting peace, equal opportunity, respect, and forgiveness. His work continues. Take care, everyone.
I feel like it will inspire for more younger people of our generation to not be afraid to have their voices heard or to speak on their opinion for good trouble or necessary trouble, like how he was during the civil rights movement. Bye everyone, have a good day. Go Lancers.
All of the teachers of the World Language Department are so proud to be a part of John Lewis High School, and we feel extremely fortunate to be members of such a great team and to be involved in such a historic time for our school.
Et c'est excellent qu'on ait l'équipe de John R. Lewis, le nouveau nom pour ce lycée.
أنا سعيدة باسم مدرستنا الجديد لويس High School.
Estoy súper, hiper, mega, meta orgulloso de trabajar en la escuela secundaria Lewis y estoy emocionado por todo lo bueno que nos espera en el futuro.
Hey, it's Tierra Ruffin Pratt from the Los Angeles Sparks here. I just want to congratulate you guys on the name change to John R. Lewis. That's big. We already know it ain't many things happening for us, but I just want to congratulate you guys on what you guys done.
My name is Osoyu Seda, and I'm proud to be graduating from the newly renamed John R. Lewis High School.
안녕하세요. 저는 자랑스러운 루이스 랜설입니다. Hi, I'm Miss Yoon. I am very happy and grateful to be here. This is my 7th year at Lewis, and when I walk into the building, I feel immediate sense of togetherness. We are one family. We care for each other here, and I am very happy to be a part of Lewis Lancer. Go Lancers!
We are Lewis!
I'm proud that we changed our school's names to John Lewis High School. Our school is such a diverse community where students grow together. It's really empowering to be renamed after such a great figure of society.
We're really excited about our name change because we feel that it represents a cultural diversity that you find within our school and within our department. We are Lewis!
Hola, mi nombre es Ronnie y estoy orgulloso de ser Luis Lancer.
The reason I really like this new name, the Lewis name, because it's not just because it's someone black. It's someone black, and it's someone who changed society in a major way. And so I thought it was really cool that they did that, and it's not the guy before. So I'm excited about it.
My hope is that by renaming the school after Mr. Lewis, our students and our community will learn and appreciate all the good work and good trouble that this civil rights icon achieved during his lifetime.
Hola, soy Katherine y estoy muy orgullosa de pertenecer a Lewis Lancer.
John R. Lewis was an inspiration to us all, and all of us in the CTE department are proud to walk in the halls of a school that bears his name.
Finally, guys, we have a name that represents us, John Lewis High School. Multicultural community, respectful of others' way of living, of thinking, and the culture. And I'm going to John Lewis High School. It does have a cachet.
And I'm so excited that our school name got changed. I really think it was a necessary change. And coming in as a Lee Lancer and now graduating as a Lewis Lancer, it truly means a lot to me, especially being an African-American woman. And just, yeah, so go Lancers.
Go Lancers.
Becoming John Lewis High School endows my alma mater with a namesake who personifies righteousness, persistence, and dedication to equality. While there are certainly times in high school, for me especially, where you just want to be invisible, drift through, and graduate, Congressman Lewis's lifelong lesson was to always take up space, always make an impact, and always get in the way. I cannot think of a better example for the generations of students that will graduate from John R. Lewis High School in the future. Congrats on this rededication and best wishes to the students, educators, and support staff of John R. Lewis High School.
The new name just represents positivity and equality in the school, and I'm just happy to go to John R. Lewis High School.
Civil rights activist Diane Nash said that freedom by definition is people realizing they are their own leaders. At John Lewis High School, we are the leaders. We are the leaders in our commitment to end prejudice, develop freedom, and participate in the democratic process. Go Lancers.
Soy un orgulloso Lewis Lancer.
Our school is a place of excellence, community, and growth. We celebrate our accomplishments and diverse experiences. This is my happy place.
And we are so excited about the name change. Oh my gosh, now we represent something important. We are part of a family of love. We are excited to be here, and now we can get in trouble. Good trouble.
And I'm proud to be a Lancer because I'm proud to be part of a big family.
I'm so proud to now be a John R. Lewis Lancer. Go Lancers!
سلام دسایده ما خوشحالم ما چه لویس لانسر.
And the name change inspired me to not be afraid of fighting for what I believe in and not letting obstacles get in the way. Always get into good trouble.
We are one Lewis High School.
One Lancer family.
The human family.
And what affects one of us
affects all of us. We are Lewis proud.
Go Lancer!
Hello, I'm Andrew Iden. I'm the co-author of March, and I worked with John Lewis for more than a decade. It's a tremendous honor to have your school be named after the Congressman. For him, his work was about inspiring young people. His work was about showing young people the power that they have to influence the democratic process and to change our laws for the better. So to have this school be named after him, I know would be deeply meaningful. And I'm grateful for everything that you do at your school to continue to build the beloved community and create a more perfect union here in America.
I'm proud to be a Lancer because when our community needs to, we're able to come together as a team, as a whole, as a group, and work towards something that we all believe in, and I think that's wonderful.
We are so excited to rededicate our amazing building to John R. Lewis. We can't wait to make good trouble now and with our future Lancers. Go Lancers!
Home is where you make it.
And this is our house.
Proud to be a Lancer.
Even prouder to be a Lewis Lancer.
Orgullosos de ser Lewis Lancers.